Harry Potter is one of the most beloved heroes in any franchise. He's brave, selfless, and relatable. When it was announced that they were making a prequel to the series, I thought Rowling would never be able to make a main character as interesting as Harry, but I was wrong. In this video, I'm going to explain why Newt Scamander is the perfect hero for the Fantastic Beasts films, and at the end, I'm going to go over what we know about his character past the 2 films so far. Now, there are going to be spoilers, so there's your warning. Now, let's get started. The original Harry Potter series focused on a trio, and while in Fantastic Beasts, Newt does have a gang, it's not the same as the Golden Trio. Newt's journey is not as closely tied to his friends as Harry's was. He often does things on his own without Jacob, Tina, and Queenie, whereas with the original trio, they went on each mission together.
When are you going to get it into your head?
You don't really think you're going to be able to find all those Horcruxes by yourself, do you?
We're in this together.
You need us, Harry.
While Newt is more of a solo character, he is the embodiment of the Golden Trio. He's brave like Harry, has the brains of Hermione, and has a kind heart like Ron, but at the same time, he's completely different and unique. As much as we love the original trio, they aren't perfect and have some flaws. Harry might be selfless, but he also has a severe hero complex. Hermione has the brains, but she's bossy and a know-it-all who always has to be right. And Ron is a jealous wreck, always being in the shadow of Harry and his siblings, which causes him to be moody, mad, and eager to one-up everyone. Newt, however, has unwavering kindness. We see this when he takes his Fantastic Beasts in and cares for them like no other.
You rescue these creatures?
Yes, that's right. Rescue, nurture, and protect them.
His affinity for all creatures and his care for their well-being is at the heart of his character. Also, he always sees the good in people no matter how much they're in the wrong. The line that sticks out to me is when Lita tells the story of how she killed her baby brother and Newt stands up for her.
You didn't mean to do it, Lita. So it wasn't your fault.
Newt. You never met a monster you couldn't love.
And that's not to say that because the Golden Trio was selfish, they're not good characters. They are amazing characters and some of my favorite in any series, but it's just different writing. The characters are similar, but so different at the same time. Newt is a different kind of protagonist than the trio, which is what has to be done when you're adapting a new story to an already existing one, especially one as beloved and complex as Harry Potter. It's writing 101. J.K. Rowling described Newt as an outsider, saying, "My heroes are always people who feel themselves to be set apart, stigmatized, or othered. That's at the heart of most of what I write, and it's certainly at the heart of Fantastic Beasts." And it's so easy to see how she adapted this idea to the prequel films. When we first meet Newt as he takes his first steps off the boat and enters New York, not only is he an Englishman in America, but the wizarding world in the UK is so much different than the US, yet another thing that sets him apart even among his own wizarding kind. His outsider status, however, extends beyond being a newcomer in the Big Apple. The relationship that Newt has with his Fantastic Beasts takes priority over his relationships with other humans. An example of this is when he goes after the Eurumpent, despite Tina and Queenie's kind hospitalities. He doesn't care if he hurts their feelings.
But we made him Coco.
He's more worried about his Eurumpent and if it's okay. He doesn't care for people, and he acknowledges this, saying that people tend not to like him in return.
Well, I'm sure people like you too, huh?
Not really, no. I annoy people.
While Newt is beginning to understand that in New York, the use of magic is much more dangerous here than in the UK, he disregards that, again more worried about his beasts. He doesn't care if he gets in trouble, and he's not worried about the residents of the city. He thinks that his escaped creatures are at greater risk than the humans that might encounter them.
So they're currently in alien terrain, surrounded by millions of the most vicious creatures on the planet. Humans.
His own safety is also secondary to his beasts. We see him put his life in terrible danger a few times. The biggest example in the first film was when he was trying to get his Eurumpent into his case. And in The Crimes of Grindelwald, he does the same thing with the Kelpie that he has to feed on a daily basis, literally risking losing a hand every time he does so. And another great example of this is when he tames the Zowu when it's running rampant in the streets.
Come on, Newt, get out of there!
But that's not to say that Newt lacks empathy for human beings. In fact, unlike the twisted mentality of Gellert Grindelwald and his followers, Newt's beliefs about the power of Muggles mirrors that of Albus Dumbledore. Both of them believe that Muggles, or no-mages, aren't to be looked down upon, and rather progressively, Newt doesn't subscribe to the notion that non-magical and magical worlds should be as separated as they are in America.
I know that you have rather backwards laws about relations with non-magic people, that you're not meant to befriend them, that you can't marry them, which seems mildly absurd to me.
Newt's friendship with Jacob, and the way he treats him as an equal, is a rare thing for a wizard in that time period. Instead of seeing their differences and shying away from them, Newt welcomes Jacob into his world without a second thought. And he doesn't just act that way for Muggles. His treatment of Lita Lestrange during their Hogwarts years is the same sort of situation. She's an outcast to the rest of the school and was bullied very often. No one wanted to be associated with her because of her family's past, but once again, Newt accepted her without question. And going back to how creatures revolve around Newt's life, when Lita was upset, he tried to cheer her up not through talking, not through hugging her or patting her on the back, but by showing her magical creatures, using the thing that made him happy to make Lita happy too. It's the easiest way for him to express his feelings, because it's what he understands better than anything else. While Newt's heroism stems from his relationships with his creatures, there's also his delicate and understated approach to saving the day. Rather than attempting to thwart and destroy the Obscurus, Newt uses kindness to try and help Credence.
I'm here to help you, Credence, because I'm not here to hurt you.
Everyone else just came in using physical strength and intimidation, but Newt took a different approach. He knew that the might of magic wasn't necessarily the best course of action. Rather than go in wand raised, Newt used his humanity to connect with the Obscurial, softly talking Credence down with a genuine wish to protect him. While some might paint him in the light of only being good with creatures, that's very far from the truth as we see in this scene. Furthermore, Newt is resistant to any sort of violence, instead opting to use knowledge and logic to solve the problems at hand. He's smart enough to figure out that instead of rounding up the entire non-magical population of New York, they could take a natural approach. He not only uses the venom from the swooping evil, but also frees Frank the Thunderbird to help the people of New York forget the violence and destruction caused by Grindelwald and the Obscurus. We also see his brilliance and heroism as he uses his creatures to his advantage. The way he tracked Tina down using the Japanese water demon, the way he uses swooping evil to escape and later disarm Grindelwald were all brilliant. His creatures are at the heart of his heroism, and his bond with them, compiled with his knowledge of them, makes him much stronger than the average witch or wizard. In true Hufflepuff style, Newt's approach to heroism is understated. Unlike the bravery and grandness of a Gryffindor, he swoops in under the radar, an expert in his field, determined not only to do the right thing, but also to ensure that there's minimal collateral damage, something that Harry, Ron, and Hermione were not too good at. There's not a smidge of arrogance or smugness when Newt saves the day either. His awkwardness around humans might have something to do with this, but it also just doesn't seem like it's in his nature. Even though he's out there saving the world, it doesn't seem like Newt is ever searching for glory the way the original trio did, especially Harry and Ron. I don't think Newt is even aware that what he's doing garners glory. He didn't expect any recognition when he helped save Paris from being engulfed in flames, or after saving New York, or being the one to figure out that all along, Graves was Grindelwald. Adorably, he even struggles to tell Tina that he'd like to see her again. And he does the same thing when he struggles to tell her the truth about how the paper had gotten it wrong about him and Lita. It's this meekness as well as his empathetic quality that Dumbledore clearly sees, and why it seems he asked Newt to become involved in stopping Grindelwald. Dumbledore, a truly good person for the most part, admires Newt.
Do you know why I admire you, Newt?
What?
More perhaps than any man I know. You do not seek power or popularity.
This is something that everyone struggles with, including Dumbledore. Everyone wants all the power they can get, but Newt is the oddity that does not do that. He objectively looks at a situation, sees what the right thing to do is, and acts on his instincts.
You simply ask, is the thing right?
Another example of this is Newt refusing to take a side when Theseus told him that he must.
The time is coming when everyone is going to have to pick a side. Even you. I don't do sides.
But like any good character, he develops over time and comes to the realization that Grindelwald is not someone he wants to side with, as his moral compass told him not to believe in Grindelwald's wizard supremacy. After he chose a side, he gave his brother a hug, again developing his character, going from not liking much physical interaction to being the one to initiate a hug with Theseus. Newt, however, is more than just this resolute moral compass. The way Rowling wrote him with his underdog status makes his heroic nature unexpected. Unlike the traditional heroes, he presents a kind of masculinity that's not afraid to show weakness or vulnerability. He even lacks the usual sort of charisma exhibited by great witches and wizards. He's inept at public speaking and just speaking to people in general, as we saw with Tina. And while he's competent, he isn't a wizard as celebrated as Dumbledore. He's not afraid of emotions either, and while he might struggle to express himself with other human beings, he's always aware of how those around him, both human and animals, are feeling. If they're struggling, he attempts to make them feel better, just as he did with Lita and Credence, and how he does on a daily basis with his creatures. Newt subverts everything we've come to expect from our heroes. Rather than relying on brute strength and emotional dissonance to save the day, his mixture of sensitivity, intelligence, kindness, and his empathetic nature proves that these things aren't a weakness. weakness, but rather, they help him tackle anything the world throws at him. He got a crappy hand of cards dealt to him when his former girlfriend and his own brother started dating and eventually got engaged, and clearly he was bitter towards them, but Newt was still willing to not only act cordial, but to even be the best man at the wedding, a true testament to how level-headed and kind he is. And moreover, as I mentioned before, even though he was angry at Lita for this, he still defended her after she told the story of how she killed her brother. This shows that his capacity for empathy outweighs his social and moral difficulties. If he was put in the original Harry Potter series, his character would not have fit there, but he is the perfect hero for these prequel movies. His being able to fight the norms and speak out about what he believes in was very rare in the 1920s, which is what makes him stand out as a hero more than anyone else in the Fantastic Beasts films. He's the perfect hero and character for the movies that he's in. So what do we know about his character past the films? Well, given that this series is a prequel, we actually know a great deal about Newt's later life. We know he ends up marrying Tina Goldstein, which the films have been hinting to a great deal, and together they had children, and later on got a grandson named Ralph Scamander. And Ralph, oddly enough, married Luna Lovegood, and when they had twin boys, Newt became a grandfather to Lorcan and Lysander. Obviously, we know that he wrote the most heavily used book at Hogwarts, Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, hence the name of the series. But his life and greatness extends well beyond just that book. He was responsible for the inception of the Werewolf Register in 1947. What this did was have the Ministry of Magic have a list of all known werewolves in Great Britain. They were all forced to register so they could be monitored, and so the ministry could make sure that as little werewolves were created as possible. In 1965, he created the ban of experimental breeding, which Newt considered his proudest moment in his career. This ban was made to regulate the growth of wizard-bred magical creatures like acromantula, basilisks, and other dangerous creatures that most would not know how to take care of or tame. He also worked with the Dragon Research and Restraint Bureau, which led him on expeditions all around the world, allowing him to collect information for new editions of Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. In 1979, he was awarded the Order of Merlin 2nd Class for his services to magizoology and was honored with a chocolate frog card named after him. He also wrote another book called A Children's Anthology to Monsters, which was aimed at younger readers before coming to Hogwarts. By the 1990s, when the original Harry Potter series took place, he was retired and living in Dorset with his wife Tina, and they had 3 pet Kneazles, a cat-like magical creature, and their names were Hoppy, Millie, and Mauler. Even though he was retired, however, he was still known to study fire slugs in the Brazilian rainforest. During Harry's second year, Newt visited Hogwarts to discuss the printing of a new version of Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. In 2017, Newt put to rest the rumors that he was sent to New York by his former teacher, Professor Dumbledore, to spy on the government there and find out any new information about Grindelwald's whereabouts. He said he thought it was absurd that he would pose as a magizoologist to achieve that, but he did admit that it was a bad idea to take a suitcase full of creatures to New York. While saying this, he also confirmed the public belief that he was indeed the first wizard to ever capture Gellert Grindelwald during his New York trip in 1926. It was then revealed that he played an active part in defeating Grindelwald over the next 2 decades, which will be the plot for the 3 remaining Fantastic Beasts films. Newt was not at liberty to divulge all of this, but the documents that held this information were now beginning to be released, making him now free to talk about them as they were no longer classified. I'm excited to see Newt grow as a character over the next 3 films and see how his efforts to help capture Grindelwald play out. Newt's honesty and vulnerability will hopefully encourage more people to embrace these qualities, because after all, there are all sorts of ways to be a hero, and he is the perfect hero for the Fantastic Beasts films. Thank you so much for watching, guys. You can follow me on social media to see more of my personal life and see more of this little dude. You can follow me on Twitter and Facebook for Movie Flame updates. And I want to give a huge shout out to all my patrons listed below. If you want to be featured in the next video, plus get a bunch of other rewards, become a patron today. Again, thank you so much for watching. Make sure you press that like button and subscribe, and look out for more great videos on the way.